Welcome to Jade and Jay. Thanks again for listening in. And we're going to be talking about conspiracy theories, specifically in the black community. Not to, forget about our brown community or other, people of color.
It's a tricky and touchy subject, I guess, and it's just something that we want to give our thoughts on and give our wisdom on, and just share it with you guys. So, just to get right into it, conspiracy theories as far as this COVID vaccine and any kind of immunization shots. We're just going to be giving our thoughts and facts and knowledge on things that has a tendency to affect us, whether it's not getting it from credible sources or just misinformation.
Yeah, I love reading history and looking at the science of it. And, it is a touchy subject because a lot of people in the black community are affected with just what I like to call the real fake news. If you get what I mean. There's so many people out there that are using social media to hurt us, to affect us. And the more and more we're in tune with social media, which isn't always a problem, social media can connect people. It can bring awareness. But when it's used, like our famous quote, the internet was fine until people weaponized it.
Right.
I love that quote because the internet teaches me things all the time, such as the things that I've been diving into and what I'm going to dive into today with the topics that we have. And I always try to make sure I look at credible sources,
Right.
What I'm familiar with, and, why do I trust what I trust. And, there's history, channel type of sources, there's CDC type of stuff. And I know there's people out there that have just become afraid even of the CDC or the World Health Organization, WHO, and all of these things. But when you look back at history, some things in history have not changed. And there's so many different events, but, Jay and I are going to just kind of just jump in back and forth. And I read a little bit about the flu pandemic that happened in 1918, and it's also referred to as the Spanish flu. But during that time, what amazed me was actually a lot of different things. But just to start, there was really no vaccine at the time. And some of the same things that people had to do last year, they had to do back then. But it was worse because there was nothing to protect against the virus, no antibiotics. So people wore masks, they social distanced, they quarantined. And what was ironic about black people during that time was the segregation in a way may have helped them because they had to quarantine. They kind of had, limited resources, couldn't go to hospitals. And again, to not jump back and forth too much, it's really scary to know that black people can go to the hospital today. They can get a black doctor, or hey, if they can't find that, get an Indian, get an Asian, get something other than white. If you feel that, man, because of Tuskegee, I can't trust anybody white, or just because of the history of slavery in general. But to be able to go to the hospital today and to not utilize our resources to, hey, let me first try a black doctor and then trust the science, and if they're telling me this and then I do my own history, maybe get a second, third opinion, hey, maybe I should try it out if it means saving my life and protecting my family, especially the young
Right.
ones. And maybe to transition a little back and forth from Tuskegee to influenza.
Okay, so we're going to go right here. And the Tuskegee experiment started in 1932 and ended around 1972. And it started in Macon County, Alabama. No surprise, in the South, with its history and Jim Crow's laws and whatnot. And you can do your research on the Tuskegee experiment. It's a horrible experiment, but it's that experiment alone that made black people hesitant, especially black people hesitant towards trusting the government and trusting doctors. So that right there is a history of the government beyond a reasonable doubt doing things to us to where it builds up a distrust. So I can understand that we're hesitant to take it, but we're not living in Tuskegee anymore. That we got to get over that. We can't have a future unless we get over the past, and you're gonna be stuck in the past if you live there. Constantly remind people that let's not forget about Tuskegee. Well, don't forget about it historically, but today they're not doing that today, and not that it means anything, but Bill Clinton apologized in 1997 on May 16th for the government's part in doing that experiment, taking accountability for it. So I'm not much for politics like that, but at least it's good to get a president that acknowledges that. And a sidebar for people who thinking Trump and anybody in his administration supports us or is down for the black and brown community, what has he done to publicly acknowledge something like that? And again, I'm not bringing politics into this, but there is some kind of accountability and acknowledgement from the government at the time, it being President Bill Clinton, to acknowledge that that was wrong and gave us an apology.
Right. And a lot of people would probably look at that as, oh, don't believe that or don't buy into it. And it's not that we're buying into it, but what I wanted to mention about whistleblowers is with the Tuskegee experiment, we did have a whistleblower. What was his name?
His name was Peter Buxton, Buxton.
Right.
He was a whistleblower. He was 27 years old, a social worker, and quote, "I didn't want to believe it. This was the Public Health Service. We didn't do things like that," end quote.
And this is a white man.
This is a white man.
At the time. And I'm going somewhere with this. So if you're listening, please bear with us here. We're going to be spilling a lot of info. But the reason why I brought up the whistleblower, because as we were talking about this earlier, you're not going to have any organization that's going to do something with and get away with it for so many years. So with COVID last year, everybody was talking about don't believe the numbers of deaths.
Right.
And even before deaths, there were people that were getting infected, and those numbers were getting recorded as well. And I was watching the news like everybody else, and the only difference is, at first I didn't really, jump on into believing it. I just wanted to watch and observe. And the more hospitals locally that started to report, hey, this is local news, this is what's going on, these hospitals are, the cases are rising, and at first it did almost seem like a bad movie, like Contagion. Like, my goodness, like, is this really reality?
Mm-hmm.
And looking at all the states in the U.S. start to get it, and then this is why it's also important to watch, like just national news and world news. But looking at all the news, not just in our state, but in all the other states around us, well, every state is reporting a high number of cases and, unfortunately, deaths.
And guess what community is affecting the most?
Black and brown.
Exactly.
But going back to the whistleblower, people were saying that COVID isn't real and it's fake. And if it was really a government issued virus or some kind of weapon, a viral weapon, whatever you want to call it, whatever they called it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how come we can have a whistleblower years ago, but we don't have one today?
Yeah, we don't have an Indian whistleblower in the medical field. We don't have a black whistleblower in the medical field, a Jewish one, a Latin, Hispanic, Asian, Indian, nothing. We just believe in people who want to get some likes,
right,
want to be looked at as a person of credible sources.
So you mean to tell me not anybody out of all, let's just look at the U.S., because don't forget, COVID was worldwide. It was a pandemic. It was all over. But let's just look at all the 50 states. You can even break that down, but I'm just going to be a little fair here. Out of all these 50 states, count all of the numbers of clinics, walk-in clinics, hospitals, big or small, count all of them. And then count the nurses and doctors, count the assistants, any employee. You can go to any website and find out what kind of employee can work at a hospital. So you mean to tell me not anybody at any of these facilities noticed some type of wrongdoing, noticed, hey, I studied this in college, I've got a degree, I know what I'm doing, but this doesn't look right, this doesn't feel right, it looks like they're doing this and they're calling it that. And even government officials, that there is always a whistleblower. Because,
always.
And it was hard for me to believe, darn, Tuskegee really had a white guy, say this isn't right.
Hell, Eric, what's his name? Eric Snowden, that guy, that was a whistleblower.
See, and I really look at that as proof of, I mean, that's why, I don't believe all white people are bad. I just like to look at the history and understand, white people that were alive in the early 1900s, and then they had kids and grandkids. Whoever's alive today that is a descendant of a racist, grandparent, they're still going to have racist mentalities. They're not going to,
Racist tactics.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to see the world still the way that it was seen back then. But there are some other people that have just grown into certain, generations of households that say, hey, you know what, we know our grandfathers were, slave owners. We're not going to do that. There are, white people that grow under a better household, a better, better generation. But back to the hospitals and the clinics and everything, I'm pretty sure, and that's what made me feel confident about believing, hey, it is hard to believe that such a horrendous, pandemic is around. This is something, again, I only thought I could see in a movie.
Right.
But to see nurses and doctors on TV, or to hear from them even locally, just to actually go and visit a clinic and hear somebody say, yeah, this is real, and just telling the science of it.
And Jade and I are speaking from not an opinion, definitely not from a conspiracy theory, but common sense and facts.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't get any more basic than that. I mean, do a process of elimination, do pros and cons. If you have a pre-medical existing condition, I wouldn't recommend that you do that. I mean, and I'm going to touch back on the Tuskegee experiment because there were 2 survivors that we know of it. Not that it was a mass murdering event, but there were a few credible people that made it out of it that was able to speak on it. And one person is Charlie Pollard, Pollard, and the second guy is Herman Shaw. Those were 2 brothers who spoke out against the Tuskegee experiment. So again, I know we have, as black men, black people, have reason to believe that the government doesn't have our best interests. But go to a government official that's black. Go to a government official of color. Get credible sources before we start spewing this Tuskegee experiment as a way. Because, they targeted the poorest communities during that Tuskegee experiment. That's what they did.
And when you say government officials, that brought me to the fact that we have to vote. As black and brown people, we have to get out there and vote for local and more. Not just what we think, it's only important to vote for who's president, and even still, it ain't gonna matter. We have to get out of this negative way of thinking and remember back in the day, they didn't have that right. And what we got was just whatever white people voted that we would get. And we would just hope and pray that at the time, hey, we'll be all right as a people. But we do have to understand, we have to get rid of conspiracy theories. We have to understand
it's hurting us, man.
It really is. It's hurting our community. So if you just want to go local and vote for, imagine how many people can spread the word of, hey, vote. You just never know who could get elected and who could help make the community a little bit better. And speaking of the community, when I read more about the Spanish flu, this is early 1900s. Another thing that really stuck out that I kind of wish we had today, not slavery. I'm not saying that I wish we had slavery today, but the fact that the black community was segregated and they were forced to depend on each other, to trust each other, to rely on each other, and to have each other's back.
Like the Panthers.
I'm pretty sure there was some hating here and there, but for the most part, the majority of what I felt from just, reading history, going back to just, it just didn't feel like there was a historical divide among black people during that time because they all experienced certain things. Now, I know you still also have your, all in-house versus out-house, and there might be a little bit of tension on why did this person get treated a little bit better. But as far as a community being segregated, and let's say you have a neighborhood or a block, and that whole neighborhood is forced to just be black because they won't let black people live in a white neighborhood. Well, that forced black people to just really be there for each other.
Right.
And even a lot of black women wanted to be nurses, wanted to help. A lot of black men wanted to be doctors, and vice versa. A lot of black men wanted to be nurses. A lot of black women wanted to be doctors. And it really helped shine a light on, well, how can we educate ourselves so that we can help ourselves?
This is what people sound like when they don't want to take the vaccine. Now, with that, that's somebody who's against the vaccine. Cool. And if you want to be like one of those people, he said it's here to destroy the United States. Now, as black and brown people, they don't care about us.
Right.
They don't care about us.
Never did. Look at the history. Look at the past and the present.
That's a white guy clearly saying for the United States. Pretty sure we know who he voted for, but that's neither here nor there. But the point I'm making is that he believes that it's attacking the United States.
Right.
Did he say black and brown people? No.
No, but
The good Lord to take care of me. Well, good luck to you, brother.
you know, all the people that believe in conspiracy theories, I challenge you all to go back, and since you're already on social media, go back and look at videos of people who used to believe in it and the reasons why and what may have changed their minds. Even a white lady recently, we watched her, you know, and first of all, anybody who takes accountability, I can, you know, I really do congratulate them, because it is embarrassing to believe something, to come out of it, and to look back and say, man, I can't believe I used to think like that. So I can understand the embarrassment, you know, and a lot of people probably don't want to go backwards and say, oh, man, I can't believe I used to believe in that. But it's okay. It makes you a better person when you own up to what you used to do, believe, or think, and you become a better person. But she was saying that she used to believe conspiracy theories. She believed that COVID was fake, or it was, you know.
And she ended up being hospitalized.
Went to the hospital.
Couldn't breathe.
Yeah, and explained how she felt like someone was choking her. She couldn't breathe, even with oxygen. And then having a young child at home, how it possibly could have killed her or her family. And we have to look at real examples of people who used to believe in the conspiracy theories and what they believe now, what made them change their mind. Because I believe that those types of examples, real testimonies, believe that they can help a lot of people. And also, you know, shout out to a recent black guy we saw on TV say, hey, it took me a while.
Right.
I'm going to get my vaccination because I want to protect myself and my family. And these black people that are publicly, openly saying that they got the vaccine and nothing happened, I want to know what people have to say for that. There are more people that are getting either sent to the hospital, very sick, or either dying from not getting the vaccine.
And Jade and I have our vaccines, and our oldest daughter has the vaccine. So this isn't something where we're spewing something.
We're not, no. Our daughter took it. She's fine. And that was going to be the only way she could go to school, you know.
And Jade, I'm going to conclude by just saying that I just want our people to do research, get it from credible sources, and then make a decision. And I pray that you do get vaccinated, man, because one thing you can't deny, it's really affecting our community.
It's a scary but real thing. This COVID, it started, you know, please do your research. And that's why I went back and I looked in the early 1900s, you know, looking at the flu, the swine flu, how these things happen. Even make you think about places that, you know, you work, or if you deal with live animals, or if you deal with, you know, certain types of meats that might go bad. It makes you, me personally, you know, I try to watch what I eat. As a family, as a whole, we try to make sure we stay away from foods that can make us sick. And then this can go into a different topic that we're going to touch on in the future. As a community, black and brown, we have to watch what we eat, what we put in our bodies, because we already have a lot of things against us.
We got a low life expectancy rate. We got black on black crime. We got cancer that's killing us. So put that on top of with this pandemic. We don't win.
I know. There's so many things affecting us, and we have to educate ourselves. We have to stick together. We cannot be divided within our own community, because it actually starts in the household. Go back to our previous recordings. It starts in the home. What are we teaching our children? What are we even teaching ourselves? And then in a community, what are we teaching each other? You know, we have to stop being divided, because all that's doing is making us more sick. Our life expectancy is going to be younger and younger.
Mm-hmm.
And meanwhile, you know, the people, I believe more than half of the white people that are saying don't get vaccinated, I believe they are secretly getting vaccinated. They're just trying to tell black and brown and other races, you know, hey, don't get it.
Don't get it, because again, as that dude said in that audio, for the United States, the good Lord to take care of me. He is not talking about black and brown people.
Nope.
They are getting a shot, but then telling viewers out there that, oh, it's a conspiracy theory. I guarantee you they got their shots.
Right, right.
And that's just my thoughts on it.
Right. So yeah, we're gonna wrap this up again. We appreciate you all listening in. Please, leave comments, subscribe. Let us know how you feel about the vaccine. Actually share some experiences. This may be a good time even for us to, open up.
Get
our
more
minds.
knowledge.
Exactly. I mean, knowledge is power. The more you know, information is always helpful. So let us know if you've gotten the vaccine, what has happened, or if you didn't, things that may have changed your mind, what caused you to believe what you believe, and we're always open for that. Thanks again for tuning in. Stay blessed.
Peace and blessings.